Today's episode is brought to you by The Real Playoffs.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much, my man. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Got some good news to talk about today. Some big stuff, and of course, as we've been pressing the wrong buttons here, as we've been talking about for quite some time.
Playoffs.
Got plenty of that to talk about as well, but. Let's get into a little bit of housekeeping here. With the end of the regular season comes the end of our Pick'em and Unlimited leagues, and we have some winners to announce here. One of our winners is none other than Totemly Drunk. Congratulations to him. He has actually already been contacted, and his prize should be on its way already. And also Dust52, username Dust52 on High Noon Pick'em. You are a winner as well, and we are not 100% sure who you are. So please, if you are hearing this, Dust52, if you have some way to verify that you are in fact Dust52, please reach out to us on Discord.
Really any platform.
Anywhere.
We just need a screenshot of you logged in on highnoon.gg to verify it's you, and then we will get you your prize. I think he was the Pick'em winner, so he's getting a jersey sent to him.
All right.
And then Totem was the Unlimited League winner, so he's getting a hat, a team hat.
Yep.
So congratulations to both of you. Thank you so much for participating. And we will get our vengeance next year when we also forget random weeks to submit our pick'ems because we can't win prizes.
Yes.
But nonetheless, we're going to beat you anyways.
Well, let me tell you this, Death. This is going to be a big boon for you because at the very least, the hat this year is not a Boston Uprising hat, which it was last year when.
No, it wasn't. I set it on fire as soon as you dropped it in the mailbox.
I didn't drop it. It gets sent directly from Blizzard. So unless you hijack...
No, I did. No podcast money has ever been spent on Boston merch, and nobody can convince me otherwise, because otherwise I can't sleep at night.
True.
I just can't.
Well, that's why you are up until 4 a.m. playing Teamfight Tactics. But again, thank you everyone who participated. This is really fun for us to do. Thanks, High Noon Pick'em, for running the league and all that stuff. Dust52, please somehow reach out to me and or Deathblow or the show. Just in any sort of way, please reach out to us so that we can get you your prize. We also saw the season finale. It sounds like it's a TV show. Season finale of Foul Play as their season ended, of course. They got a great episode that was out last week. Blackwatch Report, I believe they were off last week, but I think they might actually be recording live right now.
They are.
They're recording. I know they started a little bit before us because of the Labor Day weekend. We're off a day, but they are recording as we speak. So make sure you check out Blackwatch Report for all of your Tier 2 Overwatch needs.
It's the Boop NATO episode, so you guys don't want to miss that one.
Ooh, I did not know it was a Boop NATO episode this week. So The big recap week for contendies with Boop NATO. There is no better out there. But speaking of there being no better out there, I want to transition over here. Just set myself up.
News.
One piece of news here, but this one is an official High Noon bump being recognized across the world. Moirai, a former Around the Payload guest and the creator of the pretty much anything that looks like it was done professionally and not scuffed. Yeah. That was by Moirai. She has been great. She is now officially on the OWL Observer team, starting with
Playoffs.
Yeah, we're seeing her this week. As well as in the 2020 season. So huge shout outs to Moirai. if you see her in Discord or on Twitter or something, just send her a heart or something. Massively deserved, and just awesome. I mean, Death, you said it yourself in Discord. The High Noon bump knows no bounds.
What can't it do other than get the host jobs? But in all seriousness, though,
then we might have to start worrying.
As you said, super well deserved. Moirai is just been a content machine for us season 1, for other shows, other platforms. She was working for Jane and the ELO Hell team for a while there, I believe. Honestly, I don't know that I've met anybody that's harder working in the Overwatch scene, and we've met a whole lot of content creators,
met a lot of people,
personalities, and I think Moirai might put them all to shame with just her commitment and her effort level. So big congratulations, as Levin said, very, very well deserved.
Yeah, just
this is why we say remember us when you're famous to everybody we work with.
Yep. And it usually ends up being, I mean, let's think here. Hexagram's longtime High Noon podcast guest. I mean, I don't even know if we can count the number of actual players in the Overwatch league.
There's too many.
Coaches,
at least 3/4 of the league and coaching staff. You're welcome.
Yeah. I mean,
world.
It's not, you're not wrong, but yeah, so really, really proud moment. I mean, not proud for us because we didn't do anything, but proud for her.
I'm sure Moirai is very proud of her work.
We did nothing to contribute to this. We are just basking in her glory. But yeah, so that's great. So I wanted to jump there. But Death, did you do anything fun and exciting this week? I'm jumping around.
No, football, TFT, Overwatch League. I was looking forward to playing the new season a little bit out of the Roll Q beta and get things rolling a little bit. Unfortunately, I've got one game in the season that was in between the two Roll Q betas. We got like one game in, and then there was a bug. Choi Hyobin placed gold on his his tank roll on his
just
main
be
account.
better, Forehead.
Just don't suck, I guess. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun on
idiot.
Saturday. A lot of fun on Saturday playing with the guys. A huge win streak. Just a very good group that worked very well together. I got a ton of Sigma games in thanks to Ja. From Mash Those Buttons, who was manning the Orisa for my Sigma to kind of allow it to work, which was great. And yeah, it was really funny too. I play a lot. I'm sure we've mentioned him plenty in the past, but my buddy Yankee, Sigma came out, and I was like, oh man, PogChamp, like he feels really strong. Really counterable, but really strong. Like I think he could be something. And Yankee was like, nope, we're going to just lose every single game where you play Sigma garbage, and I want nothing to do with them and get him off.
The story checks out.
And I've never seen the man be so wrong about a new hero or a composition or anything like that. So I really did kind of back off of it a little bit in the PTR playing we were doing. I'm like, well, Reinhardt's good and underrated. So I'm really going to, try him out a bunch. And I went away from it for the benefit of not tilting my friend, and then I just should have thrown it in his face and made him deal with it. Now it's super meta, and how many hours do I have where I didn't play the Sigma that I do kind of wish I did a little bit, but he is a blast to play from the tank perspective. It's great to have something that's so mechanically based and skill rewarding. There's a lot of skill in playing tank. Just ask somebody who doesn't play it to play it and watch how it goes compared to somebody that does. You'll clearly see the difference. But it's a very different kind of skill, and it's something I always liked going to DPS to just get some aim out, to just work on different things. And now you kind of get that within the tank role for the first time, which has just been great. I love learning the new different kind of tips and tricks and things you can do with it. Going against a wrecking ball, he drops his alt, and then you just I guess I'll just send a shield right through that. Just clear all those out.
Oh, you can destroy all the mines with the shield?
You just send it out through the field, the minefield, and
That's crazy.
they just are all gone instantly. So
insane.
even if we had somebody try to do it to us where a Sigma floated us, a wrecking ball puts the mines down, and by the time we hit, all the mines are gone.
Wow.
Because I've cleared them with my shield, just take them all out. So great to just find the little different things you can do. You use his ultimate. Where's your high ground, right? Because now you're all of a sudden you're trying to get to a spot where they don't expect you to.
Right.
Things like that. So yeah, been a great time kind of learning that hero a little bit. Hoping to get some more in, and I hear the new season's live. So hopefully this weekend. Although maybe not, man. Football season's back. We got Overwatch League playoffs going on. I don't know what I'm going to do on Sunday. My football Sundays, Blevins, are usually 2 games on plus Red Zone channel plus another screen with all my my fantasy football scores so I can flip around.
Sounds like you need to get
I'm
a
out
new
of screens,
iPad.
man.
I'm out of
iPad. What do I put the Overwatch League on?
You put it on your Nintendo Switch.
No.
You download the MLG app on your Nintendo Switch and you watch it on there.
It's going to be a no for me. But yeah,
Sure
I'll have to figure it out. But yeah, it's just been a haze of football and Overwatch. This is the nightmare couple of weeks for me where everything is packed in. It's great. I'm constantly entertained. I've got sports. I've got competition being streamed to my eyeballs just at an alarmingly high rate.
Yeah.
But at the same
you'll miss
time,
these days when we're in the off season. We've got nothing to talk about.
Only after football season ends, because I make a meal out of football like most people I think don't. Same with Overwatch. Any sports league I follow, I don't follow my team. I don't.
Right.
I follow the league. I follow everything, and it gets very tough to do that when there's 2 of them.
That is true. That is definitely true. Yeah, for me, I was gone over the Memorial Day weekend in the greater New York City area, supporting my girlfriend and our roommates as they produced a play off Broadway. So that was cool for a play contest. Played a lot of TFT and did TFT things, and yeah, just getting in the groove of things. I do want to start playing Overwatch again. It's just I'm like so enthralled in TFT right now. I just need to.
Yeah, even my Overwatch is stifled a little bit by the desire to go there. But I can't mention enough how much this makes me willing to log in and play a couple games of Overwatch. Just the decay being gone. And I know your rank wasn't in the point where decay was a relevant factor for you.
It never was.
But at least for me, it's like I finish my placements and then a timer starts, and it's you have to play again. And it's being a content creator, watching as much Overwatch League as I do. It's impossible. Some weeks, literally, to find time to do basic human things, let alone maintain your season rating.
And let me tell you, the human things are the first things to go.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I've pretty much cut sleep out of the equation. Although I got a lot of sleep this weekend, which was kind of nice. I needed it as I was nursing a cold. But enough boring stuff about us. Let's move on and do some.
It's tournament talk.
We had what we are calling the. But are known as the play-ins officially, or as we also like to call them, the fake playoffs that we talked about last week. And just a little preview here. I was 100% wrong about every one of my picks. So if you are one of the poor souls that bases your picks off of anything that I say, I hope you've learned a dire lesson.
Yeah, it only took the shortest match of the weekend in order for your bracket to be, but like the first one was the shortest. Immediately busted your bracket. You were just done right away.
It's like, and it's gone. But we start off with Guangzhou Charge winning 4-1 against the Chengdu Hunters. Shanghai Dragons winning 4-2 versus the Fusion. So goodbye Fusion, goodbye Hunters. Your season is done. We had a good time. You had a shot, but it is now gone. Shanghai runs back and plays against London in what I think we can pretty safely say is match of the week here. in London versus Shanghai. London winning 4-3, but there was a draw in here, or was yeah, there's a draw in here. I couldn't remember. So an 8 mapper, which is a rarity for sure, especially in a high pressure situation like this. And then Seoul Dynasty wins 4-1 versus Guangzhou Charge. So like the mini play-ins into the play-ins, didn't even matter. Just the two higher seats won. Nothing crazy here, but that does mean that London Spitfire and Seoul Dynasty have moved on to our actual playoffs. But before we go there, Death, any notes here? I know you were lamenting a bit about Guangzhou's performance here.
Well, I mean, my bracket was one match away from perfect, and it was the stupid Seoul Dynasty beating my Cinderella story Guangzhou Charge.
I mean, they're one and done, man. They're
one and done. That's exactly what that
won.
means. They
won.
played 2 games, and therefore are
they
one
won.
and done.
They won one, and then they're done.
So they're one and done.
They won one, and then they're done. They went 1-1, and then now they're done.
1-1 and done. 1-1 Wegdar won.
One.
No, that was Game of Thrones. I'm sorry. That was the name of the giant from Game of Thrones. I got confused.
It's been too long. Don't remind me of Game of Thrones. I just get sad. For many reasons.
Last season was great.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter about the last season. It's just that it was the last season.
That it's gone. Yeah, I hear you.
I'm already over the fact that I didn't care for the last season. I'm just sad that it's not coming back.
I think we don't need to go down the Game of Thrones track. Yeah. We'll need to argue probably more than we do about sports, but nonetheless, yeah. So Guangzhou came out. They looked great, obviously, against the Chengdu Hunters. Got the 4-1 win there. Really convincing series. I thought they looked really strong. They had things seemingly figured out, and as far as their composition, what they were going to do. Then they get to the Seoul Dynasty, and they did exactly what Houston did that drove me nuts in their 0-7 stage. And that's like, we have a plan. It just worked great for us. Yep. Look out. And then, we lost a round on King of the Hill. We better switch immediately and never, ever, ever go back to it. And it just really kind of drove me nuts. You had a plan. It was working. You lost one round of one. You know what I mean? And I get it. It's the pressure of the playoffs. If it's over, so do you want to go down a whole map right away because you were unflexible and unwilling to change off of your strategy? And, so it was pretty disappointing. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll just chalk it up with this. Just say that's what happens when you don't play Fraggy forehead. So bring him in. Get him win. Going. No Fraggy, no win, except for against the Chengdu Hunters. But yeah, so it's unless Blevins wants your opponent. True. Then you can win.
There are certain forces at work that are more powerful than others, and me wanting a team to win is the most powerful force against that team.
And, compounding my frustration a little bit here is the Seoul Dynasty with their just constant, just repetitive substitutions all year, us tearing our hair out and just saying, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you do this? It's not the way to run a team. And here we go in the playoffs when it matters completely, and they're, they just don't make a single substitution.
You know what I think happened?
It was Toby. They never changed. And honestly, to me, it's the right lineup too, right? Because so I go into this week thinking, well, they're just going to be this inconsistent pile of roster changing, and because if it's right to keep a consistent roster in the playoffs, it's correct to do it all season long and let those players work with each other better and be a better, more cohesive unit, like the 19 other teams in the league did. But they just didn't want anything to do with it. So now we have to try to reevaluate them. What are they at their core now with this 6 group of players? Like I said, I think they got the right group of 6. So they're theoretically in a decent position here to go deep in the playoffs if they can play well. But it's obviously going to be tough with the strength of the opponents they've got going on here. They're the 8 seed, I want to say. They gotta be, straight out of the gate, it'll be Vancouver. And that's something that I think was super avoidable just by not making those substitutions. Like, you could have just had a better playoff seed. You were not the 8th best team throughout the regular season. So they've kind of still made their own bed. Now they've got to lie in it. They made the decision that seeding didn't matter, or however they came to this decision. But now they've got to make their way through these brackets. I think it's incredibly fortunate for them that it's double elimination from here going forward. But yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch them progress. Fleta on McCree, go figure. I mean, the guy right now, McCree and Farah figure to be very, very key pieces, and to me, he is a player that plays both of them at an absolutely stunningly high level. So I think he really gives them a much better chance than I gave them going into it. Now that they've stabilized, they're playing the correct players, and hopefully they're going to be able to build on that. But they're how many games and months behind in team synergy with this roster, all these things, and the hardest road is the road they have to travel here. So
yeah, they are in the actual worst spot you could possibly be in terms of seeding, obviously. But you know what I think happened? I think Totally Drunk, who is a resident Soul Dynasty fan, just went to the stadium and just tore up all of the substitution cards that they have to turn in. Just threw them right in the garbage and said, "Oh, sorry guys, can't make any subs." So. But yeah, I mean, this isn't, you might think, oh, well, we've been, crapping on Soul Dynasty for so long. Like, how can you all of a sudden be confident in them? We've been crapping on the fact that they make these stupid changes over and over again.
Yeah.
And if they do it against Vancouver, okay, throw them right back down in the garbage. But if they're going to be running this consistent lineup, and the lineup that we've been talking about for 2 years now, with Fleta, with like, this is what we want. This is what we wanted from Soul. This is what was promised to us before the beginning of season 1, when they were by most accounts the number 1 team in the league. Of course, that was also a time when we thought Dallas was the number 2 team, but that was a different world we lived in. Okay, Soul is now finally getting the chance to live up to that hype that they had before season 1, and they're gonna have a chance to show it right off at the beginning here. Any other storylines that we want to talk about here before we move on to the actual playoffs?
Well, we got our first look at what the meta is going to be. Obviously, this is the same patch that they'll be on the rest of the way through the playoffs. And with that came an interesting wrinkle for, I believe, the first time that at least I can remember. There's 2 tanks that I would say are decisively main tanks that are seeing play.
Yep.
You're seeing a lot of the double shield with the Orisa and the Sigma.
Yep.
Obviously, Orisa was kind of buffed into oblivion as an effort to counteract Goats. They said, well, if we can make Bunker good to beat Goats, then Dive would then counter Bunker. So then we get kind of this rock, paper, scissors that would push Goats out of its undying prominence. That didn't happen. They put 2-2-2 roll lock in, and now we're stuck with all these attempts to make Bunker just bananas good against Goats, and now it's just bananas good against everything, because you can't play that old style that used to beat it. So we're seeing this kind of adapt, and now we throw Sigma in here, and what I think is an incredibly fun to watch and fun to play meta with the tanks, the double shields, the kind of leapfrog is I think the way we should term it, kind of discuss this and think of it, is that it's the shields leapfrog over each other. You put the Orisa shield down, you fight behind it, it dies, then your Sigma shield goes a little farther forward, a little closer to the tank, and then you fight behind that, and then the Orisa shield comes back up, the Sigma shield goes down, and the Orisa shield goes in front of that Sigma shield. So you just kind of make your progress through the map, dropping these shields and leapfrogging them over each other. And I think it's been great. We're seeing a lot of Protect the McCree compositions with all the shields that he can hide behind. Those are 2 very stationary, ground-centric tanks. So you've got Farah's doing a lot of work, and the McCree tends to counter the Farah. Doomfist is incredibly good against Sigma, and so he's been seeing a lot of play.
And with Sigma.
With him on his
ults combo very well together.
They do. Even the enemy team's Sigma alt combos pretty well with your McCree, as I did to my team at least once on Saturday. It's high noon, and I'll just pick him up. Yeah, we can't hide if I just pick him up, and then he can fire from up in the sky like that. I've done that plenty. Once is plenty. I think I've only done it once, but yeah, it's been I think a blast to watch so far. It's funny. I always laugh. Every meta is the worst meta, and we make that joke a lot. And our Discord bears it out every single time. He hates every meta at all times. But I saw a lot of the players talking about, I can't remember whose tweet this was exactly, but like, I feel bad for the casters having to try to figure out what's going on in this double shield meta. And like, Uber's response was essentially like, I just casted goats for 3 stages. Like, I'll be fine, fam. Calm down. Like, it's not a problem. Yeah. They're all rap gods, right? So they'll find something to say and talk about. And players just, I think, get so in their head, and like, as players, stop worrying about the spectator experience, because you're so far removed from it, right? Like, you're like, in my opinion, the least qualified person to discuss the spectator experience. Participating in it is like it. If you observe a phenomenon, you change it, right? So if you participate in a phenomenon, you certainly change it. And like, I just don't think they understand what as spectators we want to see. I don't care if it's confusing with particle effects, and like, I want to see the Doomfist perspective while he punches his way through your entire team and hits the Pharah out of the sky, and like, those things are great. If the team fight itself is a little cluttered, that's whatever. We're not in goats anymore, so all 12 players aren't within melee Reinhardt swings of each other. So you can look at other things if the main fight gets a little crazy.
And remember, not that long ago, we had to deal with Mercy reses, and we had to not even that long ago, we had to deal with multiple Mercy reses. Remember, because when Mercy's ultimate was the resurrection, it was
global.
Oh, there's people that are down. We had the global, and then we also had the big area of effects. So it's like, okay, there's 3 people down. Now he could res all 3. Maybe he only reses 2. Maybe he waits, and it's like, okay, the fight hasn't really started until the first wave of reses on each side has started. And now these kills are permanent. It's like, this is nothing. And also, I think if players are getting you to think that they are concerned about this meta because of the viewing experience, that's 100% disingenuous. They don't care. There is no way that they care. Oh, but if the viewers don't like watching it, they're not going to. No, that's not true, and that the people who are watching Overwatch are going to watch it no matter what, right? And it's like, oh yes, we're not going to get new viewers if all they see is good. Let other people worry about that. They're just saying that because they don't like it for whatever reason. There's no way that they care about the
Jane's take was the only take I've ever heard on metas that I think wasn't a complete lie from a player or a coach, and that's, I don't care what the meta is. I don't care what map we're playing on. I don't have preferences. Do I think my team can use it to their advantage to win? If yes, sign me up. I don't care. That's what players and teams should be looking at. That's what they do look at, and that's what they do care about. You didn't see the Vancouver Brig player whining about Brig Jail. Maybe that's because I don't speak Korean.
That is possible.
It's certainly possible. But like, you don't see, the only exception I'll say that you don't see players and teams that are winning whining about stuff. The only exception is maybe San Francisco when they were whining about Sombra because they didn't like it. It was justified because Sombra's a trash hero, invisibility is a trash mechanic, and shouldn't exist. But at the same time, that was their weakest point throughout the season, was when during the Sombra. So they were clearly being frustrated by it, and I think that is what drives their opinions. Their team success. You see the Boston, the Houston, the whatever, the teams that aren't performing at any given time, you see them complain about the meta. You don't see that from the teams that are dominating.
And the players who aren't doing that well, because at the end of the day, like, this is their job, and no one wants to be bad at their job, especially not publicly, and especially when there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are just waiting to sign that paper.
I was going to say, I'm okay with it as long as nobody else knows. Personally.
Right. Exactly. Like, oh, you don't like Bridge Hill? Yeah. NYXL, yeah, I'll. They're not Houston Outlaws. I will play for your team. I'll be your Brig. I don't care. I won't complain. I will come. I'll show up to work every day. I'll shut my mouth and I will do the best that I can.
I will be your proverbial first in, last out. You make my job playing video games, and I've got no reason to stay up at night anymore. I can just go to bed at a reasonable time.
Unfortunately, my best is not even remotely close to being good enough. But I will put forth an effort, and I will eventually be selling hot dogs in the stands for the Florida Mayhem. Speaking of which, I'm wearing my Tvik jersey.
You and Tvik both, yeah.
I already got the jersey. But yeah, the only other thing I want to talk about here is I'm just so happy that Shanghai is not in the playoffs. Not because I have any particular ill will against Shanghai, the organization, or any of the players. I actually really like the team itself. I like the players. I think they have a really talented squad. I'm just so sick of, they were 0-40 last year, and they're now in a position to make it to the season 2 play. Shut up. I know. We get it. They lost all their games last year. History was made, blah, blah, blah.
They also cleared out their coaching staff and brought in 7 new players for their 6-man team.
This team was not 0-40.
Right. So it would have been overdone, and it was overdone throughout the regular season.
It was already in the plans.
In everybody's defense, in everyone's defense, it's a very natural storyline.
It is.
You have to mention it.
Yeah.
But you don't need to take every opportunity to mention it. Was just a little bit what it felt like.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to throw shade at anyone in particular. I'm just because it is a very natural thing, and I'm sure if I was in the same position, I'd probably be doing the same thing and falling into the same tendencies. I'm just happy that we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Now it's going to be nothing but people talking about whether or not NYXL is going to choke, which I'm just so used to now that I don't care. But in that vein, let's move on here and talk about some good old
Playoffs?
It's tournament
See,
time.
the buttons are working perfectly. I'm just pressing the wrong ones. All right, let's break this one down. First match, we alluded to it earlier. We've got the 8th seed, Seoul Dynasty, versus the number 1 seed, the Vancouver Titans. Who do you got, DB?
I'm going to take Vancouver here to keep the number 1 seed and to roll with it. And then it'll make the Seoul Dynasty 1-1 and not done.
There we go.
Just if you're keeping track
yet.
at home. 1-1 and still alive.
No, they lost one.
Right,
they
1-1.
lost one. Okay,
1-1.
go on. Someone will do. Someone in Discord will crunch the numbers and we'll figure out what we mean.
What does 1 + 1 guy? Get Discord, help us out. But yeah, so I looking at this matchup on paper, you do have to favor Vancouver a little bit here. When I start to look at it specifically and think about the position battles and who's going to win out, it does get a little murkier, I've got to admit, because
We haven't
we look
seen
at
them on Sigma yet.
Right, we haven't seen Vancouver in this meta, and we saw Seoul perform better than I thought they would. We saw them stabilize their lineup, get their best players in, and also I really think Marvel was probably the best Sigma player throughout the weekend. I mean, it was close. There was definitely some other decent ones. But I thought he handled that hero transition better than most, which of course did put Michelle on the Orisa, which I thought Michelle did a fairly decent job there as well. So they seem stabilized there. We know kind of what they are, and that's my opinion. There's like a very strong player on the DPS lineup and a very average player, and then the same in the support line. Very strong player and a very average player. So there's not really too many other weaknesses. I think the tank line is what Seoul really needed to show me they could do and they could handle in this meta. They did that. And it's kind of same thing on Vancouver here. I'm not sold they have the tank line to really run in this meta well. Bumper, admittedly, see, the problem is you want to think like, oh, it's going to be like Janus, right? The over-aggressive player is not going to be able to feed if he's on Orisa, and then things will just kind of work out. But the Orisa play, we saw that from Bumper already. It's not bad. There's not an issue. But which one of these guys is going to play the Sigma? I almost lean a little more towards the Bumper side of things. I think Janu's really dependent on the Diva being in the meta, and I just haven't seen him on enough else at a high level to make me think they're not going to be worse if he's not able to play the Diva. So I'm a little worried about Vancouver from that perspective. That said, I mean, you can just kind of go down the rest of their roster and you just don't have any other concerns for Vancouver. So are they going to be able to kind of get it together, get it figured out? You do have to think so. But you do, I mean, let's look at, do we think Hacksaw's going to have any problems on Doomfist? I just don't. I think he's going to be just fine there. You know, do we've just really not seen any weaknesses from the rest of the roster at any point. To really think of it as much of a concern. So generally speaking, I don't know. I mean, if Stitch comes back in, right, and he's the one that mans the McCree and Hacksaw's on the Doomfist, and they get the Genji play wherever they get it from. That's probably Hacksaw's job, right? But you know, you just can feel very confident in what Slime's able to do from a shot calling perspective. Twilight is, in my opinion, probably their best player. So I have no issues with him on any role they're going to ask him to do within the flex support spot. He's just not shown any deficiencies there. So all things considered, I think I'm a little more confident in what I'm going to get from the Soul Dynasty, which to tell me a week ago, I would have made that comment on today's show. I'd have said, you're nuts. But Vancouver,
are you confident that they're going to throw by putting in the wrong people?
But I think Vancouver is just adequate tank play away from just continuing to be the better team in this matchup. We've not seen them be bad on tanks at all. I can see how it could happen here, but I've been my consistent theme all season is I'll believe it when I see it. If you want me to buy in, show it to me. And there's just been nothing actually happening on stage to make me worried about the Vancouver Titans. So yeah, give me them 4-2 here.
Yeah, I tend to agree here. The one caveat is you look at this match, it's a 1 seed versus an 8 seed. It really doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like Seoul has made the last sort of minute level up, as we saw in the play-ins. Obviously, their performance there can't really affect it couldn't affect. They couldn't be higher than they are now, right? Going into the play-ins, at least they could have done better in the regular season, but that's a different story. They feel like they're higher than an 8th seed right now. I think that they're stronger than that. And on the same token, Vancouver, you know, they got a lot of their wins early. They got a lot of their dominance out early. They did show that they can bleed. You know, they are not the untouchable, undefeatable team that a lot of people thought that they were at the beginning of the season, and that they rightfully showed that they were at the beginning of the season. We've seen them lose. We've seen them bleed. We've seen them lose in playoff situations, and this is the first time this season that Seoul has been in a playoff. Right? They haven't been in any stage playoffs as far as I can. As far as I remember.
They have.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
In a stage playoff.
They made a stage playoff this year. Pretty sure of it.
Okay. Very.
I'll try to
few
find
stage
out what
playoff.
stage, but
regardless, not a lot of them. They didn't win any. You know. They definitely did because they beat. That was where the Nene Grav was against Seoul. Haven't had a ton of stage playoff experience. They've just been kind of consistently inconsistent, but like they were even in season 1. The long and short of it is this does not feel like a 1 versus an 8. It feels much more like a 3, maybe a 3 versus a 5, 6 versus, you know, it does not feel, or a 3 versus a 6, a 4 versus a 5. It feels much closer than 1 versus 8. That being said, you know, if I'm playing the odds here, I'm going with Vancouver. But man, I think this one's a lot closer, especially, you know, if there is a little bit of an unknown with Vancouver. Obviously, their past does lead us to believe that, you know, they can probably cover the Sigma. Obviously, they've been scrimming on the Sigma. They have all that, you know, the comps that are good are not. It's not a secret now that they have it and they have the talent to field it. But, you know, sometimes we see perfectly good players that a new hero comes out or a different, you know, wrinkle in the position, and they just don't live up to it. They also could make a weird change where, you know, they don't want their normal tank line in or something like that. It's not
calling for Tizzy.
I'm calling for Tizzy. Bring him out.
His 2 main tanks not unreasonable. They signed him late. They flew him out to join the team for the playoff. It is not completely unreasonable that we do see Tizzy.
And he could be insane, or it could be a complete flop to do it. For the first time, I think, in the entire season, with the exception of being off the GOATS meta for the first time, we are not completely sure where Vancouver sits. And I'm not 100% certain that is at the top seed right now, even though they are technically the top seed. Long story short, it's closer than 1 versus 8, but I'm still picking the 1 seed here.
Yeah, so we're both taking Vancouver for 4-2 on this one.
Yes. Next up, we have the LA Gladiators versus the Hangzhou Spark.
Yeah, man, 2 teams that we haven't seen yet, so it is a complete kind of unknown scenario here going into it. Personally, we've talked about this. I don't remember if it was earlier, but maybe it was even off air. The LA Gladiators, to me, are a team that on paper have everything they need to go into this new meta and to succeed. I do want to point out that I've said that about 4 times now.
We've seen that a lot
the 2
for them.
seasons,
Yeah.
right? 4 or 5 times throughout these seasons.
They
I
got
thought
Fissure. They're in a really good spot. Oh,
the meta's right. This is where it's gonna click. Everything's figured out now. They're going to ascend, and they just never do it. Now, I think the tank position is really interesting for them because now you're looking at 2 different guys, Roar and Void, that can both potentially pick up the Sigma and play it correctly. Neither one of those players was their Orisa player, right? Or at least I think Roar did on occasion. But Hydration came in at least one map on a regular occasion and played the Orisa for this team on King of the Hill. So I think he gives them a really interesting kind of a flex player, really. I mean, let's be honest, that's what he is.
Right.
But in
He's
definition
player.
and in this situation, he's got the ability to maybe be a regular starter for this team as on a tank role and play one of those 2. So you've got 3 different people now that you get to pick from that can play your Sigma and I think play it well and understand their job because we've seen all 3 of them do it. So now you bring potentially Hydration in to stay on your Orisa. One of the other 2 go to the Sigma, and I just feel like they're in a really good spot. Decay and Surefour have no end of depth to their hero pools.
Right.
They can play anything between the 2 of them. I feel confident they can at least play outside of the Farrakhamp, right? The Farrakhamp to me is where Hydration has to come in, and he has to play DPS. So maybe they don't want to plan on that. But I don't think the Pharah is required. I think you can just play the McCree, beat the shields. If they go Pharah, you've got the McCree to counter it. You don't have to match it by matching heroes. So they can opt not to play the Pharah, but that's where things get really interesting. If they decide Pharah is best, then their tanks are locked. It's just who's playing what. Right. And we already know there's reason not to be super optimal. You know, that's not super optimal because they bring in a DPS player to play one of those plays at other times. So I don't know. I just feel like the Gladiators, with their ability to play anything, this could very easily fit very well into their niche, what they want to be doing. This is a team that's never once won in the playoff stage, regular season, any form of playoff. The Gladiators have never taken home a win. It's very, very difficult to predict them to succeed with the pressure of everything that's going on. I will say last regular season playoffs, you can't really blame them. They came out and surprised the heck out of us. They benched Fissure, then they won the first set, after doing that, and then went on to lose the next 2 sets. I want to say that was against London, maybe. I don't know. My memory doesn't go that far back.
Either. Yeah.
But it's so all this is a roundabout way of saying I'm picking the Gladiators here 4-2. But of all the matches, I'm like 40% sure that the Gladiators are going to win, and I'm 39% sure that Hangzhou is going to win, and the other 11%, or what is it, 21%, whatever it is just tied up in like this event, this nonstop draw fest, where just no team gets control over the control point on the decisive map at the end. And we're recording this match in hours, 72 of the series. This one is to me super, super close. It's almost impossible to pick. And at the end of the day, I just went with the team that I thought had the more upside. They are the team that's the more likely to fall flat. But it's just I mean, Hang Zhao's still reeling, right, from trying to figure out how to replace Crystal, and it's coming together for him, and they've definitely got solid players that can do it. But man, is Gushui are you telling me Gushui is gonna pick up Sigma? And I just there's more question marks to me for Hang Zhao. If Crystal was there and he was manning the the Doomfist and he was just there to kind of be a staple, I'd think of them more like I do Hacksaw for Vancouver, and just I'd feel much more safe about it. But there's just the indecisiveness with the Gladiators is nothing I can look at on paper. It's all about the guts, what the team has when they show up on stage, and that's ultimately matters more. That's the more important factor.
True.
But as an analyst trying to look at it, I just can't help but think the Gladiators have a decent shot.
I think on paper you're 100% correct. The Gladiators, they have a bevy of options. They have had success at times across the season, but it's just like you described it perhaps offhandedly a couple episodes ago, and the crowd goes mild. It's just like that's not what I'm looking for when I'm looking to pick a playoff team. Now, granted, that could absolutely be what happens. They don't have to have a flashy win. They don't have to explode right off the bat in order to kick off the playoffs. But that consistency or the flash play, I mean, they do have the capability of it, but I see it more out of Hang Zhao here. They are down Crystal, obviously. I mean, Gushui, he's shown at times, he's shown really, really great moments. Now we're not sure what he's like on Sigma, or if he's even going to be playing the Sigma, but
what I know is that his Reinhardt was significantly worse than his Winston gameplay this year, and that's closer to me to what I mean. Like you're getting
definitely
closer to the play style
but
when you talk about Orisa and Sigma.
You're 100% correct about that, but it's not necessarily going to equate. Something might just
doesn't
click.
have to matter for sure.
Exactly. So I mean, I think both of our sides here, a lot of intangibles, which is kind of what the playoffs are about and what is really great about watching the playoffs. But I'm gonna go with the flip here. Hang Zhao, do we have a coin? Do we have a coin ready?
Sure.
Let's go. I'll give you your tails for Gladiators.
And it came up heads for Hang Zhao. So
heads for Hang Zhao.
New coin next season.
We're retiring that coin.
Every year we've used this coin, Houston hasn't made the playoffs.
True. All right. But for the official High Noon podcast pick, we're going with LA Gladiators here and we'll get into our Bizarro World scenarios afterwards. Up next, we have the London Spitfire, the returning champions, versus the New York Excelsior. I'm just going to start us off here. You know what I'm picking. Easiest 5-0 ever. NYXL versus London is another one of those kind of... I don't think it's as strong of a rivalry, honestly, as San Francisco versus Vancouver this season, but last season it really was kind of that rivalry. They faced in the stage playoffs at least one time, and then they faced in the regular season, obviously, a couple times. London was the bane of New York's existence early on, and then New York came back and won, I think, a couple of those later on. I don't remember the exact details of them.
London won the first one.
Also, in my mind, I think maybe I'm thinking that they played 4 or 5 times against each other, which obviously didn't happen in the first season.
Well,
maybe
four times in the regular season for sure. Then stage 1 playoffs. Then if it happened.
Okay, so maybe I am not misremembering this. Maybe I'm remembering it correctly. Regardless, give me NYXL 5-0 here. We haven't seen him in a while. As far as we know, the sandbags have been released, and we can assume that they've been practicing on meta. They've been practicing exactly what they're going to be playing. We know that they obviously have a huge amount of skill across their team. Mono, Meko, Libero. Between those players, they've got a lot of different talents here. There's not. I don't know. I'm always worried about NYX on the playoffs, but I got confidence. I've got confidence. Give me 5-0.
Wake up, Blevins.
Nope.
It's time for school.
Nope. No, it's not.
So back to planet Earth. New York is, to me, a very obviously a terrifying opponent, but everything Blevins just said about their skill is 100% accurate. They are who we thought they were so far. They are repeating exactly what they've done last year. This is a team that can never push through in these clutch big playoff moments when they absolutely have to. They always find a way to fall short and to fall flat, and I don't expect anything to be any different here. And not in this matchup. London gets to take what they did this past week and they get to adapt on it. They get to learn on it and go a little bit level 2. New York and these teams that didn't get to play in, I didn't have to play in the play-ins. I'm treating it like the play-ins were a positive. But once you make it through them, they kind of are, right? Like once you fall out of the back end of them and you're in the actual playoffs, you seem to be a bit of a step ahead. And London, to me, need to continue to get better with the tank play. They were running Gesture on the Sigma, and then they were putting Fury on Orisa, if my memory is correct. Makes sense. Gesture's higher mechanical skill than your average main tank. I do think there was a little bit left to be desired there, and part of me wants them to flip it, but they've done too much work on it this way to I think, go back on that now. So that's where I think New York can really take the advantage, is if their tank line is just better equipped to handle the Orisa Sigma setup. I don't exactly know how New York's going to handle their DPS lineup. I'm just terrified they're going to do something like play Flower. The fact that we're going in, like, who's their Doomfist player, Blevins? Who's their Doomfist player?
I mean, it's probably Nene? Or I don't even know. Libero?
That's kind of my point. Like, Libero plays everything, so great.
I also want to see Libero on the Sigma. I bet he could play it.
I'm looking on paper at what they're able to do here, and obviously you can get yourself to, no matter what the DPS lineup is, you can get yourself to, okay, these are the two that can do it, right? But how can they transition? Like, if they need to go with the Pharah, is the Pharah player the same as the Doomfist player? Is the McCree player able to go to the Reaper? And you know, they've almost been too specialized in the way they've kind of handled their DPS players. Are you going to pull Pine off the I mean, McCree's big right now. Are you going to pull Pine off the bench, who's just sat there the entire time? They went out of their way to work people in stage 4. You know, but it just, all those question marks, they could absolutely, you know, they could answer them all. They could answer them all correctly, and they could come out of this the best team in Overwatch League in the playoffs. That's absolutely squarely within the range of outcomes. But with their track record, with the fact that there's so many questions they have to get right. Which tank plays Sigma? Which tank plays Orisa? Which DPS plays the Doomfist? How you handle that with all of that on top of their known propensity to just make terrible decisions as soon as it matters and as soon as the playoffs show up. I just can't pick them to win here. I love for the New York fan base, for everybody's sake, that this is double elimination, because I think they're a team that could come out here, get kicked in the teeth by London, go into the losers bracket, and sweep their way to the grand finals. I think that is almost more likely to me than them making their way through any other way. You know, they are no longer in that one and done scenario where it's one and
they can go one and then win, and then they can go one and win.
Right, they can go win and done instead of one and done.
Win and one.
Win 1-1 Wagner 1. But yeah, so it's very convoluted how New York's going to handle this. There's no meta. There's no. I still believe this. There's no meta. There's no circumstance where New York couldn't very easily be the best team in the league. They can always figure it out. They have the tools within the room. They've just never shown me the ability to get it right. They're either so far ahead of everybody else, or just trying to figure it out and failing when it matters the most. And I am going with the track record here. I'm going to give it to London. I do think that indecisiveness doesn't make me want to call this a whitewash for London, though it I meant it could absolutely be a 4-0 lightning fast London win, and then New York, will do much better. They'll use that loss, learn from it, but they might need to suffer it here. But yeah, I can't call it a whitewash in either direction, though it's possible. Give me London here, 4-3. They'll go the distance, be super close like New York was with Vancouver a bit ago, but. Every map that progresses, if it's within one, it just adds pressure and it tightens the turtleneck around the neck of the New York Excelsior until all of a sudden they can't breathe because they're choking.
Hear me out here. Sigma player for NYXL, Jonak. He shoots
I get it.
Kind of like
just chucks balls at people's heads. Yes,
I could see it.
I can't. You're wrong. They just don't have the backups for the support position.
You're not wrong about that.
I've seen Libero play for Jonak on the flex support.
That is true. It was not good.
I'm still nauseous thinking about it, so let's not entertain that too much.
They're gonna call me up to play Moira.
Nope.
All right. Last first round. The fourth game here is going to be the Atlanta Reign versus the San Francisco Shock. I know you've got a hot take here.
Yeah, Leo, you better lead us off.
All right. I mean, obviously Atlanta. Boo, Atlanta. You suck. You're garbage. You're inconsistent. Although you have been on a hot streak, but it's the San Francisco Shock, man. Come on. They've been the pinnacle of consistency. They've been at the top of the standings in a lot of ways. They have They have 2 stage championships? No, 1. I can't remember how many they have. They have 1 or 2 stage championships. They've been at the top of the standings. They've never really... they've lost, obviously, in the regular season, but they have just been steadfast and consistent and great. They have amazing players. Give me San Francisco 4-2. I don't even want to entertain this. Why are you asking me?
Well, Blevins, I can answer why we're talking about this, because the Atlanta Reign are the hottest team coming into the playoffs, bar none. Nobody's particularly close. That makes them terrifying for teams like San Francisco, who are just, they're almost lazy about how good they are. They're just whatever. We just always win. And we're moving into a situation here where now all of a sudden there's this new hero. And that's a situation that, to be perfectly honest, Blevins, San Francisco has handled beautifully multiple times already this season, okay? How did they handle Brig when it came in? Oh, well, we'll just throw our DPS player on it. What can't Rascal play, Blevins, okay?
True.
So he'll just pick up the Brig. He'll stabilize everything. It'll be a little rough stage 1, but by stage 2, we're just going to be cruising. So, but later on, meta progresses. Baptiste comes into the game. Well, how are we going to play Baptiste? I know. Let's just stick Rascal on it, okay?
San Francisco, they're not cowards. They're not afraid of anything.
Literally, to me, the story of San Francisco's success, despite the myriad of bench players they have in the MVP race, has been Rascal. He's been what stabilized them and allowed them to adapt to the new metas and to play the new heroes at the best of their ability. So until you show me Rascal roll out playing Sigma in the tank chair on the stage, I'm not sold they can do this. I'm not sold they fit into what this tank meta has become.
Choi Hui Bin is a gold level player.
Choi Hui Bin is a gold off tank in comp. Okay, if that's not, in all seriousness, there was a bug, and he did actually finish his placements in gold, so we can say that and not be lying to you.
Technically true.
It was a bug, and they took rank down as a result. It was that broken. So yeah, listen, Choi Hui Bin is to me the savior of this, right? But what are they going to do now? All of a sudden, they need 2 main tanks, and all they have is an MVP candidate on Reinhardt, and then adequacy behind it. And that's not a knock on Smurf, but if he's the tank of this team from week 1, they're not in the same position they're in right now. They're not thought of the same way. He held his own in stage 4. They looked good, sure, but now you need to have two people able to play that role. So, are you bringing in Nevix to play? I don't know. I know he's about level 30 in World of Warcraft Classic right now, if that tells you how much he's been playing Overwatch while his team prepares for the playoffs. And I get that from watching other people stream. I don't think he's streaming it. I think he's public facing, towing the company line. We're focused on, whatever it is. But the entire Overwatch League community all plays on one server, and they talk about these things on stream, and Nevix is like 27 or something like that. So he's a little distracted. I don't know. To me, I'm in a
60,
race.
so.
Well, DeFran's a madman, and also he retired. So he can do whatever he wants and tweet about not showering and things like that all he wants to. That's completely fine. You don't have to shower when you work at McDonald's. However,
that's technically not true.
Go inside a McDonald's. Stop going through the but in all seriousness, there's a lot of question marks to me here. How are they going to do this? We're looking at the DPS meta. I'm guessing Sinatra comes back in to be able to man the Doomfist. They've got a myriad of options. Literally can play anybody they want on the other side of him and play whatever, but it's not quite the New York problem, right? They're not as specialized as I think New York is. So I think they're going to handle this very, very well. They're going to get it figured out. But I think Atlanta's going to come in just playing hot. Listen, they don't have this option, true. Right? They're just gonna roll FRD out there on the Sigma.
Paralysis.
Right. They're just going to keep rolling, and I think that gives them a listen. Is Erster the best Doomfist in the world? No, probably not. Is there anybody that's been consistently playing at a high level in the DPS role all season long? I don't know that there is. I think he might have been the most consistent DPS performer. The team took a while to get figured out, but it's not an accident they didn't play last weekend. They made it into the playoffs. They earned this. True. So consistency problems aside, they were only bad for a little while, and I think people choose to remember that. But listen, Baby Bay is going to maybe be able to play some things he's more comfortable with. If you can lock him on McCree and you can lock Erster on Doomfist, the tank line's going to figure itself out because they don't have all these different options they can do. I don't imagine they're going back to Dako. The team seemed to flip on its head with the energy that Fred brought into the lineup. So it's a matter of which tank plays what, and that's a different question to me than which player plays what. Which players are playing, and then once you decide which players are playing, it's which heroes are they going to play. It's a shallower problem to have. Give me Atlanta here in the stunning upset, I think, of the playoffs, and I'm going to give them the 4-2 win. It's going to take San Francisco a little bit to figure it out, and Atlanta is just going to keep rolling. They're a momentum-based, emotional team. I think this match goes this way, and then after the result happens, I still think San Francisco has a better chance of making the grand finals than the Atlanta Reign do. But as far as lightning in a bottle goes, as far as right now, give me Atlanta Reign here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that, except that it's the San Francisco Shock, and I've got that going for me.
You certainly do. I'm well aware I'm picking the underdog. I'm calling my shot right now. But yeah, I think if you ask me right now, gun to my head, who wins this match, I say Atlanta. And then if you ask me who finishes the playoffs better, I would say San Francisco.
How scared are you of San Francisco if they just run Rascal on Sigma, just not even a thought about it, just hyper confident?
Not that, honestly, I'm not super scared. It's of all the things I've never seen Rascal do, that's it. I've never seen him play the main tank. So if don't get me wrong. If they roll it out there and they're up 1-0 and they just crush the first map, I go, okay, all right, let
me move that gun away.
And with all these, we're talking about question marks, and I'm using them to affect my predictions here, But the answer to any one of these questions, these are the top 8 teams. I talked about this in the pre-show. I really think the correct 8 teams were made
Right.
it through the play-ins, through
Yeah.
everything to give us the best matches of Overwatch possible. The answer to any one of the questions I've asked today can just be this player, and they're effing great at it, man.
Yep.
Like they're just easily
True.
could just be, they could just have the correct answer right of the way. Any
True.
one of these teams could confound all
Turns
the
out
ifs, the
Flower has been
questions.
no lifing Sigma, and he's the best in the league.
Right, or he could have been doing that with Doomfist for all we know.
True.
And now we're in this Doomfist meta, and
True.
he's actually just a Doomfist god. So I just kind of add up the question marks, and whichever team has more of them at the end is the one I'm picking to lose.
Yeah. Makes
Once
sense.
we see them start to perform in this meta, next week I expect our predictions to be a lot better, to be based on a lot more. But right now, this is all we've got to go on because 6 of the 8 teams that play this weekend haven't touched this patch yet.
True. All right, so let's move on, and because of time, we're going to focus specifically on Deathblow's, what we're calling Bizarro World. These are the matches that don't quite exist yet and might not ever exist, but they exist in your world that you have just predicted. So assuming that Deathblow has made the predictions correctly, on Saturday we're going to see Seoul Dynasty versus Hangzhou Spark. Deathblow, how are you continuing your Bizarro bracket here?
I'm going to give the Hangzhou Spark the win here, 4-3, super close. Picking with my heart in this one because I just don't like Seoul and the way they handle this. I need them to be punished for what they've done.
No, we should be rewarding them for finally listening to what we've been saying for 2 years.
No, because what I've been saying for 2 years is that even when you get there, you're handicapped because you're worse because of the path you've chosen to take to get there. So even though they've settled on a lineup, even though they said these are the 6 that give us the best chance, I think that 6 is worse off because they have not had 3 stages of consistent play together. God only knows what they've done with their scrim time. Maybe the scrim time's just been these 6 players the entire way.
And they've just been trolling.
And that would be the only way to do what they did and have it work, right?
Yeah,
But
that would be the long con, and I would hope that they win the whole thing if that's the case. I don't know if I pick this one. I probably pick Seoul here. Again, a lot of this is going to depend on how the teams look before, but we're going to go with yours here. So in your Bizarro world, Seoul says goodbye to their playoff hopes. Their season is over here. Hangzhou will move on to play next week. Next up,
1 and 2 and done.
Yes, 1 and 2 and done. 1 and lost and done. No, lost and done. 2 and done. In your other Bizarre World match, you have NYXL versus San Francisco Shock.
And remember how I talked about New York just hitting the losers bracket and going on a spree? If they had any other opponent, any other opponent here, I would predict them to do that. But in this Bizarro world that I've crafted for myself, I've got New York doing the most New York thing humanly possible, losing twice to just get themselves knocked out and out of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant to be that way. I couldn't have planned it that way if I'd tried. Maybe I could have. I had the bracket.
I mean, you literally did, but okay.
I literally did. But yeah, so give me San Francisco here 4-1. Again, these are 2 of the top performing teams with the most question marks to me. But just a couple more. Like the supreme specialization of the DPS players for New York. The fact that Pine's ability carries only Widowmaker to go with it. Like, how do you use
McCree.
that?
Yeah, no.
But that's what I mean. Like, is McCree play?
McCree plus
is,
the Widowmaker, right?
Right.
It
Only
doesn't
has
fit.
Widowmaker to supplement it. How do you use that when you only want the McCree if they're playing Pharah? And then what else do you want?
Right.
Like,
They've got a lot
near
of
impossible to me to get that right.
They've got a lot of very specifically shaped Tetris pieces that are perfect in certain scenarios, but are just weird, and you end up just saving them on the side most of the time. That's as much that's as close of a metaphor as I can get, even though it doesn't really make that much sense. So, in your Bizarre world, we say goodbye to my beloved NYXL. San Francisco will move on to play next week. All right, so the winners bracket side in Deathblow's Bizarro world. Ooh, that that might be an episode title. I'm not sure yet. Is going to be the Vancouver Titans versus the LA Gladiators.
Yes, man. Everything I said about Gladiators, if it goes as good as it possibly can and everything just fits perfectly, that's the way they get out of this one, right? If I'm right about Vancouver, they're able to dispatch Seoul with their weak, advanced head start on them in the meta and all these things. They're just going to be too good for the Gladiators to deal with. So give me Vancouver here 4-3. Listen, the Gladiators don't get blown out when they, disappoint in the playoffs. They perform. They're going to give us a match. If they're already in the winner's bracket, they'll be in a good spot even after this loss. But yeah, give me Vancouver 4-3. I'll take them going the distance because it's just like I said, it's so hard to predict anybody to clean anybody's clock when we just don't know who's doing what.
Yeah, we'll have a better picture to paint next week for sure. So, Vancouver stays in the winner's bracket. Gladiators gets bumped down to the loser's bracket here in Deathblow's Bizarro World. The last match of the week is going to be the Atlanta Reign versus the London Spitfire here for you in your winner's bracket.
The Flame's gonna just not get blown out, right? But it's just there's gonna be a breeze is gonna come through, and it's just not gonna be as bright as it was.
Now the breeze would make it brighter. The breeze will ignite the flame to go through the forest.
Okay, but the breeze is coming from the back of a jet engine called the Spitfire. And
all right,
recovered,
saved.
The London Spitfire are gonna win this one again. This is gonna be close. I said it last week, and I've almost got to stand by it at this point. London's best chance to get knocked off and eliminated was going to be right away. There's plenty of teams that can beat them, but in this constructed universe where Atlanta wins against San Francisco, it's not gonna happen here. Atlanta's gonna fall a little bit short again, 4-3. Yeah. I love what Atlanta's position looks like, and if they can keep the momentum and keep the hype going, they're going to be a very, very tough out for anybody. But yeah, give me London in a close one here on Sunday.
All right, so you've got London moving on in the winner's bracket with Atlanta dropping down to the loser's bracket. Definitely an interesting Bizarro World bracket for you there. Obviously, I don't disagree because I know XL is going to make it in the winner's bracket, but an interesting one nonetheless. Guys, let us know what you guys think. I know there were some playoff bracket prediction things going around. Fill them out, post them in the Discord, discord.me/highnoonpodcast. Get them in so we can talk about them. But, guys, that is going to be it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Man, we are in the depths of playoffs season, and it's fun, man. It's fun. We got grand finals coming up soon. We got some extra rounds of playoffs because we got losers brackets. It's all good, and we're going to be right here to talk about it next week. Guys, thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you check out the show everywhere that it is. We're High Noon Podcast everywhere, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all that good stuff. Twitter at High Noon Podcast, highnoonpodcast.com, patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. All of those places, everything helps. All the likes, follows, all that good stuff. Twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast, where we record live every week on usually Mondays, but when there's holidays, sometimes it's on Tuesday as well. But thank you, everybody. That's gonna be it. Thanks for watching, and guys, for Deathblow, I am the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world.